internet. So, I wanted to do kind of a budget breakdown, just an idea for people that are trying to start a budget, or people that want to tweak their budget, or feel like maybe they're spending too much in their budget. So, we're gonna start off, based on these are our myself and my fiance's actual expenses every month and our actual pay. So we're just going to start off by saying that, so you get idea that these are real numbers that I work with every single month, to figure out what we can live off of and make cuts and things like that. So I'm just going to start too by saying this was a lot easier for me than for my fiance, because I'm self-employed. I run my own business, so I've been living on a very tight budget for the past about 4 years because of that, because a lot of those things I have are taken care of by my business, but not everything is. And then this past year I also started a second business, selling my artwork and things like that. So, but to start things off, if you are doing a general budget, you want to make sure you have a couple different categories. So that's going to be income, fixed expenses, variable expenses, and then savings if you're trying to save as well. So kind of depending on where you're at with your budget, there's a lot of variations. So we're just going to start off with first paycheck. So this is my first paycheck every month. I get $625. My fiance, his first paycheck is usually right around $950. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but it's usually right around there, so we always budget based on the low end. My paycheck is the exact same every month, every single time, and it has been for the past 3 years, so I'm very familiar with that. Paycheck number 2 for me, same thing. And paycheck number 2 for him, also same thing. So for us, our total expected income is $3,150. Now, as I said earlier, I did start a second business this past couple months, so I also occasionally sell some paintings, and my fiance also in the past couple weeks has kind of picked up a side job too, just because his sister manages a business that is a seasonal worker thing, and a lot of the seasonal workers are going back to school, so he's helping by filling in some hours there. So this will fluctuate a tiny bit, but not a lot. So for me, I might sell print a month, so that might give us an extra $35, or if I sell an original painting, it might be another $200, $300 depending. So we just don't include that in our income until later in the month. We don't base any of our expenses and things off of those numbers, because we never know with them. Okay, so for us, fixed expenses would be our rent and our Wi-Fi. So we're kind of in an unusual situation in that our internet is included in our rent. And for where we are living, our rent is actually very reasonable for our location. We're in a studio apartment, and it's only $860 a month. It's about a 400 square foot apartment, but there are smaller places in this town that are $300 more a month and don't allow pets, and we do have a dog, so we're really grateful for that. And where we're at, the average one bedroom apartment is anywhere between $1,100 to $1,400, and sometimes you can find a 2-bedroom for $1,200 if you're lucky. So this is where we're at. And when we moved into this apartment, one thing we really took into consideration when we were looking in general was making sure we would be able to afford our base expenses living based on one of our incomes, even if that meant cutting in a few other areas. So it would be very tight. We wouldn't have extra money left over, but we would be able to survive. So continuing with fixed expenses, we have our rent. We have my fiance's cell phone, because mine is covered by my business, so that doesn't get included in our personal expenses. Electric, we average about $60 a month. So in the summertime, it's a lot less. It's about $30. In the winter, it's about $80, $90, $100, depending on how cold it is and how much heat we need to use and things like that. But in the summer, we basically don't need to use our heat at all from April, sometimes March if we're lucky, all the way to September. We'll see how it is this year though. But we basically take an average of that and we just pay a lump sum of $60 every month, because our electric company will just hold that on our account and then deduct it from future bills as we need to. So that way we are just paying a set amount every month. Not every place does that, but that's pretty much how we budget it. We also have renter's insurance for our place because we are in an apartment building, and if anything happens, we want to make sure we're able to get our stuff back, say if there's a fire or a flood or something like that. So these are our general fixed expenses. Now, other things you can add to this category would be minimum payments for a credit card or a loan payment and things like that. So we do have one loan that we're finishing paying off, so I'm just going to put that in there as an example for you all. So we have loan, and the minimum payment on that one every month is $50. When we started doing our budgeting and things, we had a lot more in debt, but we're almost done. I think we have one more payment to do, and we've basically been throwing about half of our income at our debt every single month, and I'll show you where that comes into play in a little bit. So these are our fixed expenses. Loan payment. Now for you it might vary. You might have internet that's separate from your rent. You might have a mortgage payment instead of rent. You might have other types of insurance that you need to have. My fiance's insurance is deducted out of his paycheck already every month. And then once we do get married, I'll be on that, and this amount will stay roughly the same. A lot of times I see a lot of people asking about investments with these. We're not at a point where we are investing yet. My fiance's job does have an investment program, and he's just automatically taking up the minimum for that required by his position and by his contract, just because we've been focusing on paying off our debt. So moving on with that. So we're gonna just tally up our fixed expenses here. So fixed expenses, we got $860 plus 40 is gonna be $900 plus 122 brings us up to 1,022. Let me think. I think I did my math right there. I'll just do some notes here. So that's 900 there. That is another 110 and 22. So yeah. So that is our total fixed expenses. I'm a very frugal shopper, so when we're getting into this category, my numbers are definitely going to be low compared to a lot of places and a lot of people. But we do live in a fairly expensive area. For most people, the average food budget for 2 people is closer to $400. But I used to work in a restaurant, and I always look in the sale areas of the store. Sometimes you can find some good discounted boxed items and canned goods, and that helps with our food budget a lot. We will get a few things in bulk from, say, Costco once every couple months, like grains and non-perishable items, and that helps stretch our food dollar a lot. So our general food budget is about $250 a month for both of us, but we always budget around $300 just for general household needs, like say if we need to pick up some dog food for our dog, or if we need to pick up something extra that month, we have it in there. Clothing, we haven't had a huge budget for this, but this is starting next month. We will be budgeting a little bit more, and or just a general budget. I think we've had it at about, it averages about $40 a month, so we're gonna start doing a cash envelope with that amount in it. And obviously it's not something we purchase every single month. I don't need a new shirt every month. I don't need new pants every month. I don't need new shoes every month. But by allotting $40 in a cash envelope every month, it'll slowly add up. And if I don't use it, it just stays in there. Same with hair care. I don't get a haircut every month. Neither does my fiance. So we're just gonna budget $35 because his haircuts usually cost about $30 plus a tip. Mine are usually closer to 50. But this way, if I only get my hair cut every 3 months and he gets his cut every other month, it balances out that way. Fun. We do a budget of 100 in our fun spending. And so this can be used towards really anything. Basically anything we need. So if we decide to go out to dinner, we might dip into that. So it averages to about $50 per person per month for our fun budget, which isn't a lot, but we have some financial goals that we're working towards, and we've been working on paying off our debt. So we haven't completely cut out the fun budget, but we also haven't gone crazy with it. And with clothing too, I know $48 a month doesn't seem like a lot, but we are frequently shopping at thrift stores. The few things that we do buy brand new at this point are going to be shoes and underwear and things like that. And occasionally a pair of pants if we find a really good deal on it. But for the most part, $40 at a thrift store will get you a lot of clothing. Depending on where you're at, it'll at least get you 4 or 5 shirts, maybe even more. It'll at least get you a couple pairs of pants if you need something right then and there. And we live really close to our thrift store, so we just kind of pop in there as we go. So things that you're not seeing on fixed expenses over here, and cash variable, is gas, because we currently don't have a car. And we both live within about 10 minutes walking distance from our respective jobs. So once in a blue moon, we might need $2 to take the bus somewhere, and we'll usually pull that out of the fun budget. Or if someone lets us borrow their car, we'll just take some of that out of that budget as well. So for our allotted cash envelopes and variable funds for the month, we have $475. So I'm going to do some little numbers over here now. So we've got 122 plus 475 brings us up to 1. We'll do this better because I'm not writing things in the right spots. Brings us up to our expected expenditures to $1,497, so about $1,500 a month. So if we take our total expected income and subtract that number from it, get 3, 14, get $1,653. So for us, we've basically been throwing right around that amount every month at our debt every single month for the past 6-7 months, and we're almost done with the debt that we had. But now that we're out of debt, we're going to be working on growing our emergency fund, because right now we have $1,000 in there just in case something did come up, but we're going to be working on growing that to a good 6-month emergency fund for us, which would be about $5,000 or $6,000, based on this number here, $7,000 ish. So we're gonna be working on that. We're also gonna be working on saving up for a car, just because we haven't had a car in a really long time. So we're gonna do our emergency fund first, and then we're gonna work on a car goal, and then we're gonna do annual expenses. So for us, annual expenses are going to be making sure we have money saved up for car registration and healthcare deductible fees and things like that. That way we have it on hand. So right now we have our checking account and a savings account, and our savings account is just basically emergency fund. So we're going to end up opening up another savings account, possibly 2, one for the annual expenses slash goals like car or vacation fund, and then another one for house, because we do want to get a house in the future. So let's just say we're trying to do all these things at once, and if we want to get a car and a couple other things the next few months, we'll we'll just say we are putting 700 in the savings fund every month. That means in 10 months we'd have $7,000, or actually we would only have to do it in about 6 months because, no, I'm doing my math wrong there, about 7 or 8 months because we already have 1,000 in there. So, good to do. And then we'll say we're gonna put, that leaves us with 953. Let's just say we're gonna do we'll do 350 a month into annual expenses, because let's just say our healthcare deductible is gonna be $800 a year, or if we have a doctor's appointments and stuff, we're gonna have a little bit enough saved up. So let's just say we're just doing these amounts for a few months at least, and that would leave us with about $603 to go into the car savings fund every month. So this is just kind of a general breakdown. If you want to get really in depth to it, you can always add a column for like actual money spent. I do that personally, but this is just a general kind of how do you budget. Yeah. So this is kind of just a rough estimate on where we're at. It'll be really good to be able to actually throw that extra $1,600 a month towards everything. But again, this is a very frugal budget. We really are only getting stuff when we absolutely need it, especially when it comes to clothing, and fun and things like that. So I will usually save up some of my fun money, and use that towards extra clothing and things like that. So for me, I might use some of that for makeup, or some nail care things, or going out with some friends on occasion. So some months I will use my fun money, but other times I won't. And I mean, we don't stick to this 100%, but we're usually within $100 of everything on here. So this might be $50 more, this might be $50 less, things like that here and there. So that's just kind of our breakdown. So hope this was helpful for y'all. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and hopefully I'll be doing some more of these videos soon. Alright, thank you. Bye.